Which Falcons rookie is going to create the most buzz on Friday night in their preseason opener?
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everyone, to another illustrious episode of the Locked On Falcons podcast, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you don't know me, I'm your very humble host, Aaron Freeman, a.k.a. Mr. Drew, a.k.a. the iron that sharpens the iron, a.k.a. Mr. a.k.a. And I've been covering the Atlanta Falcons for almost 2 decades, formerly at falcfans.com, RIP, still going strong on this podcast, almost coming up on 9 years this Thanksgiving as the humble host of Locked On Falcons. And I thank each and every one of you that go strong with me as everydayers. That means you make this podcast your first listen each and every day. And all you got to do to become an everydayer is subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So today, Thursday shenanigans are coming early, with Jarvis Davis of Locked On Sports Atlanta giving us a day earlier preview of the upcoming Friday night action for the Atlanta Falcons in their preseason opener against the Detroit Lions. We'll talk about which rookies we're most excited to see. We'll talk about some of the ongoing position battles as well as position groups and players that we will be keeping our eye on Friday night before we, of course, break it all down in a full hour-long squad show immediately after that final whistle on Friday night. Locked On Sports Atlanta as well as Locked On Falcons. And of course, Jarvis's boy, Younghoe Koo, seems to have, heard the slander and has run away with the kicking position. So we'll pick Jarvis's brain on that. We got to make fun of Jarvis somewhere in terms of one player that he always has beef with. And so this year it's going to be Younghoe Koo. So every time Younghoe Koo makes a field goal, we're going to be like, hey, Jarvis, you remember that time? No. Anyway, so Jarvis, all that to say, obviously we're being silly. We're already getting started here on a Wednesday. But speaking of Wednesday, Raheem Morris confirmed today on Wednesday that we will see Jalon Walker and Xavier Watts on Friday. Both of those times have been limited in practice. Both of those players have been limited in practice this week. But with those guys ready to go, that means we'll see all 5 rookies come Friday night against Detroit. Of course, the question is going to be how much of those rookies do we see, but hopefully we see a lot of them. But which of those rookies that the Falcons have are you most looking forward to seeing on Friday night?
Oh, man, this is just a glorious time of the year. When you think about, some people, who may or may not be co-hosting this show right now, you know what I'm saying? Having conversations about guys on the defense being so young and them having to count on so many young guys to play this year that you can't really sit them because you got to get those guys some good run. And oh my gosh, when I found out and heard that Jalon Walker was going to be out there, because, there was maybe a little trepidation probably because, they had the hamstring, soft tissue injury. You know what I'm saying? People want to, be very cautious and all that stuff. But, oh, man, I go back, Aaron, to the first day of practice, and I just remember 11 just all over the place. He's just swimming guards and getting to the quarterback, tagging out the quarterback. He can't touch them or anything like that. Just, oh, yeah, this is just wonderful. It's just glorious. But, yeah, man, 11 is the guy that I want to see on Friday night, man. I want to see him do it, put into action, prove Carolina wrong. Man, y'all chose Ted McMillan over me. Oh, I'm about to show y'all exactly why y'all should have taken your boy. So, yeah, I can't wait. He's the guy that I'm going to have my eyes all over. So as soon as 11 is out there, that's going to be my guy. And of course, I got to do a quick mention of, James Pearce Jr. because, he's been stealing the headlines all training camp because, we want to mix it up a little bit. So, yeah, let me see that transfer onto the field. So if the 11 and 27 are out there, I can't wait. I'm going to have my popcorn ready, and I know that I'm going to be really excited when we hop on that Falcon Squad show right after the game.
Yes. Picking which rookie is kind of hard because it's like I want to see them all, like it's like I want to see Jalon Walker, I want to see James Pearce. Of course, those are the two headliners, but of course, you still have Xavier Watson and Billy Bowman in competitions for starting spots. Walker and Pearce are technically probably not going to be starters, but will be heavily featured in the Falcons rotation. But maybe we will be talking about them as starters if they go out there and destroy the Detroit Lions backups, as we all want them to be. This is not going to be one of those, oh, it's just backups, it doesn't, but no, nope. Absolutely, I want them to absolutely annihilate these backups. Put your stamp on this thing and be like, yes, this guy is a backup, and this is why he's a backup, because I'm ready to go out there and show exactly right. Like that's the thing. Like, dominate backups. That's what you're supposed to do. If you're going to be an impact player, you put a start. We saw this a couple of years ago. I was thinking about this the other day with back in 2023 with Jalen Mayfield getting some work at right tackle, and they had Emmanuel Ogbah in that Dolphins game, and Emmanuel Ogbah was like, Jalen, I don't think you're cut out for this league. I don't think you're cut out for this league. And he showed it on a couple of series in that game. And Jalen Mayfield was not long for Atlanta a couple of weeks later getting cut at that point. And so I'm hoping James Pearce and Jalon Walker, among others in this rookie class, will get some guys cut. I want people to lose jobs based off of what we see on Friday night. So that being said, I me, Jarvis, I got to temper my enthusiasm and my excitement for this team. It is preseason, and it's like, should I get this hyped for a preseason game? I don't know. What say you? Okay.
Yes, man. This is the time. It is time to get excited. Absolutely. You want to confirm what you see. You want to confirm what you feel. You feel these cats going to be good. I feel that Jalon Walker is going to be good. That's why I named him first, because I was like, man, this dude is a football player. When you talk to him, you have conversations with him, you understand the dude knows ball. He's a coach's son, so he has a deeper understanding of the game and how it's supposed to be played. So, when you add that with just I was having a conversation with a friend of mine at my old station about how, like, this dude he's packed every bit of muscle that you can get into his frame, because he doesn't look like a natural pass rusher like a James Pearce Jr. That's why he's been getting all the love, because dude's long, super fast, run a 4.4 at the combine. So people are going to naturally gravitate to those guys that look the part also. And then when you have the fighting edge part being added to the equation that we haven't seen anybody, what I'm saying, just from that position, and be a guy that can consistently get to the quarterback. So, we've been longing for that type of guy. But people, don't forget about 11, because the man can play some football. So that's why I'm excited. That's why you should be excited, sir. Don't try to I'm just
okay.
Go ahead, I'm gonna be as normal, Aaron. No, man, that feeling that you got in your stomach right now, as you talk about these rookies, keep that and nourish it. You know what I'm saying? Water that thing so it can grow. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the ceilings for both of these players is very high. To me, though, the big questions I always had was, what was their floor going to be? And I think Friday night will be a great opportunity for them to establish exactly what that floor is going to be this upcoming season. But James Pearce, Jalon Walker aren't the only guys that have an opportunity to shine. And we'll continue today's conversation here with Jarvis Davis, talking about some other players that he expects or wants to see shine on Friday night. And we'll get into all of that as we continue today's Locked On Falcons. Now, guys, we, of course, love summer sports. Just because the NBA season is over and the NFL regular season has yet to begin doesn't mean that FanDuel isn't still the best way to get in all the baseball, soccer, golf, tennis, WNBA, and summer action that is still going strong. And since you're already following all that action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling with FanDuel, who are going to give you all the opportunities and so many different ways to bet and win, whether you're betting on when Matt Olson hits his next home run, if the Atlanta Dream can hit their over-under win total this season, on their path to the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, or if Bijan Robinson is going to lead the league in rushing this year. FanDuel's fast to pay out. It's easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to FanDuel.com, and especially for new customers, if you bet just $5 and it wins, you get $150 in bonus bets. Again, bet $5. You get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. All you got to do is open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, Jarvis, I'm curious if, when you look ahead to Friday night, what are some of the other areas of this roster that you're going to be keyed on? It may continue to be the D-line and sort of how some of those other pieces that we're still wondering exactly how they fit up front work. Is it the secondary with two other rookies, as we already mentioned but haven't discussed, with Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts challenging for starting spots? Is it the offense? I don't know how excited you are for Easton Stick, but when I think about Jalon Walker, it's like here, and James Pearce is here, and then the Easton Stick is like right here, right? But no, I'm kidding. But the 4-time national champion. So I am curious, what other positions and players are you planning on keeping a close eye on, so that when we do that hour-long post game on the Falcon Squad show, you will be potentially reviewing what they did or did not do against the Lions?
I mean, I definitely want to start with Billy Bowman and this whole D offer piece, because I feel like Billy Bowman is a perfect fit for this defense and what they want to do. You're talking about being aggressive, being a downhill type guy, coming from the safety position, moving into the nickel spot, which is, let's just face it, that's a starting position in this league. Not necessarily from a package standpoint. That is a starting position. We talk about 75 to 80% of the time, guys are in nickel, given how offenses are deploying formations nowadays. So I think he's the guy that I like the most because of the aggressiveness, because of the ball skills and everything like that, and being able to, get after the ball. I think he's going to be, I even tabbed him as the guy that I feel like that will start before a guy like Xavier Watts. So I'm definitely going to have my eye on that and kind of see how he kind of settles into that spot in live game action. That's going to be something to watch. And also, is D offer going to just kind of bow down, is he going to step his game up and understand that, this rookie's coming down my neck, but I still got some little game left. So I'm really interested to see how that competition plays out. And now that DeMarco Hellams has entered the chat as far as first team safety. So, this safety thing is going to be very interesting, because I know Hellams is from an aggressiveness and want to put helmet on chest, when he comes downhill. Like, I know Jeff Ulbrich loves guys like that. So I think he's going to have something to say. Not to say he's going to be the starter, but he wants them to make them find a role for him. So I'm gonna love to see what he's gonna bring to the table coming off an injury. And then, Jordan Fuller, I feel like he was the break-in case emergency guy, but he's been getting some reps. We talk about those pairings that I've been paying attention to. Well, he's been paired off with Jesse Bates quite a bit. So I think all of those different pieces at the safety spot and in the nickel spot, it's going to be interesting to see how this secondary plays out, because these guys they're going to be battling for reps, man. And just like, up front as well, because we've been talking about that ad nauseum, because you got Braylon Trice, you got, what is he going to look like? I'm going to have my eye on him, because he's going to be vying for not necessarily a starting spot, but snaps. That's what it's going to be all about with those guys up front. So I think Braylon Trice is one that I'm be keeping a close eye on, because I like what I've seen from him so far in training camp, being able to get off the ball, work his hands, and be that relentless pass rusher that I think he can be. So, yeah, that's where I am as far as with those position players, position battles that they're really going to really start to play out on Friday.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it with the D-line rotation, and sort of we've touched upon it, where it's like this is a big year for guys that have already been here. Obviously we focus so much on the new faces like James Pearce and Jalon Walker, but as you mentioned, Braylon Trice. I want to see. I'm not expecting Zach Harrison and Arnold Ebiketie, if they play, to play a ton of snaps, but I kind of if they play 6 snaps, I kind of want to see them pop to let us know, like, yeah, we're ready to go. We're going to be here week 1. You know what you can get from us week 1, and the rest of the summer is about figuring out what some of the other young guys are going to give you. And you mentioned Billy Bowman and Xavier Watson. Should they win some starting battles as the summer unfolds, which they definitely are in position to do so, whoever wins that nickel quarterback job is got a tough task ahead of them, because even though it doesn't sound like Chris Godwin is on track to play in that week 1 game, if I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm like, I don't need Chris Godwin. I have Mike Evans. Like, you know what? And the Falcons do not have a cornerback that can stop him. AJ Terrell has not been able to stop him. And hey, Billy Bowman, 5'10", 190 pounds against a 6'5", 240-pound wide receiver like that. I feel like, so I kind of want to see, we talk about floor and ceiling. I want to see what that floor is for Billy Bowman, if he's going to take that job from D. Alford, because he's going to be thrown into the fire. Similar thing going into week 2 with Jordan Addison now suspended for the first 3 games. If I'm the Vikings, I'm like, okay, guess what we're going to do? We're going to run the entire offense through Justin Jefferson. Ain't nobody getting 16, 18 targets, I think, okay, you're going to have AJ Terrell shadow him in the slot. Okay, good luck with that. So these are going to be some of the challenges that the Falcons face when we get to September. And so, will some of these rookies like Billy Bowman and Xavier Watts be able to answer some of these challenges, or will the Falcons have to go with some of the veteran players competing for those spots? And then for me, and last but not least, we got to mention Jack Nelson, just because I'm wondering how good is the Falcons offensive line depth, because last year we were saying, oh, it's a really strong group of backups, because you had Ryan Newsel, you had Storm Norton, but Storm Norton's dealing with some injuries. He's probably not going to play on Friday night. There's an opportunity for one of these other tackles like a Jack Nelson to kind of emerge, who's potentially the backup center in the event of an injury. Now that Ryan Newsel is the starter, the Falcons did work out a couple of veteran centers on Monday, and Jake Hansen and Scott Quessenberry. So something that they're keeping an eye on in terms of that. And so we've been hearing a lot of buzz coming out of practice. Kirk Cousins is running for his life, or jogging for his life, I guess you could say, with some of the pressure he's getting behind that second string offensive line. Your offensive line depth, chances are going to get tested at some point this season. So I'm curious if that will continue to be a strength for the Falcons, or is that going to be an area of concern as we head into the season? So, Jack Nelson, they keep putting clips of him getting beat by Jalon Walker, and I want to see what else.
And I'm glad you brought it up, because there's one thing that I noticed when I was out of practice last week, and it got to the point where, talking about Kirk Cousins jogging for his life, it got to the point where they had to kind of call the dogs off, like, because Rook and James Pearce Jr., them boys were teeing off. I'm talking about, falling down at Kirk Cousins' feet. It was like, man, look, hey, man, y'all chill out just a little bit so we can get a look. When you started to have to say that stuff, that's why they brought those centers in to work out on Monday, because that backup offensive line, bruh, it's a little sus at this point. So, and I think that, and we've seen Storm Norton, do his thing. He's been a solid backup, right? But like you mentioned, backup center, who's the backup guard? God forbid Chris Lindstrom gets hurt. Who's gonna come in? And based off of what I've seen from those guys, that's my biggest concern when you talk about for depth at what position. Like, that's my biggest concern, is definitely that interior offensive line, backup offensive line. So that's my biggest concern. So I think I'm gonna keep my eye on those guys too. Like, how much pressure is Easton Stick going to be under, on Friday against the Lions? And that's going to be, and I feel like if I see what maybe I expect probably, or what I feel is going to happen, you're going to see somebody get signed. Quisenberry might get that phone call like, hey, big head, what that contract talking about? Well, what the money looking like? Vet minimum. I know you've been in the league for a while. Hey, man, come on down. We can get you in the Falcons uniform just in case something happens to Mr. Noozle, and we can go from there. But yeah, but seriously though, I think that's my biggest concern as far from a depth standpoint. Is definitely that interior backup offensive line, because like when you get to a point and you're in a professional practice and you can't really get a good look, yeah, that's a sign to make those phone calls. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we will see what this offensive line looks like. We'll see, obviously, what some of these young pieces on the defense are going to look like on Friday night. And of course, as we've mentioned a number of times, we will be giving you that hour-long breakdown on the Falcon Squad show immediately after that final whistle, both on Locked On Falcons and Locked On Sports Atlanta. So make sure you check us out, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts, so that you don't miss that. In addition to the solo show that I will be doing after that Locked On Falcons squad show. So, you're getting an hour and a half of premium content, after this preseason game, right? And I think this Lions game will justify an hour and a half of content. By the time we get to the Cowboys game, I don't know if we're gonna be stretching it, but
we'll figure it out though.
We'll figure it out. But speaking of figuring it out, Falcons kicking battle, they seem to be figuring things out. A lot of people suggesting it's over, it's a wrap, and who's biggest hater? No, I'm kidding.
That would have been a great tease. You should go with it, man. Go with that.
Yeah. And Jarvis Davis as Younghoe Koo's biggest hater. We'll see what he weighs in on this as we wrap up today's Locked On Falcons. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. NFL kickoff is almost upon us, which means fantasy football is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, I'm playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I've been a Yahoo Fantasy user for years, and the updates that they're rolling out this month are, pun intended, fantastic. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. And to kick it off, they just dropped the Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's just one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and to give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in a head-to-head private league or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. So, Jarvis, the Falcons did have a scrimmage on Wednesday, and Raheem Morris said that this would be an opportunity for a lot of the guys that will not play on Friday night, which we can pretty much, he's already declared Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins not playing, and pretty much every offensive starter
early.
Yeah. Tyler Algier, he ain't going to be out there. Charlie Warner, if you got a job, if you're going to be playing on Sundays on offense, I know for a fact you ain't going to be playing on Friday night. So, and then we'll see which select veteran defensive players sort of get rested on Friday night. But, Wednesday was basically an opportunity for those guys to kind of shine. And to me, it's not lost on me that the reports were that Younghoe Koo took every kick, which at least to me kind of suggests that he's going to be sat for this Friday game, and it's going to be a Lenny Grigg night for the Falcons. But because Lenny Grigg didn't get a chance to kick on Wednesday, and we had Maria Martin of 11 Live on the pod like a week ago, basically saying, hey, this is a real kicker competition. And then based off of today's, everybody's saying it might be a wrap on the competition. So I'm curious, Jarvis, do you think it's done? Is it Younghoe Koo's job to lose at this point? Or do you think Lenny Grigg has a chance to potentially make a comeback on Friday night?
I think I think it was Younghoe Koo's spots to lose from the beginning, because of what he's done and what he's been as an Atlanta Falcon, and then because essentially I think Grigg was brought in because the type of player that he is, because he's an international player, so he doesn't count against the roster. So he was like, yeah, if we can bring somebody into for a competition, I put that in air quotes, and potentially if we don't have to worry about cutting him or anything like that, and it's not going to count against our roster, we can keep him just in case of emergency, just in case Younghoe does get hurt again. But that is possible, because when a guy has kicked as many balls as he has in his career, that could potentially happen. And we saw that happen last year, and we saw the end result of that, of not having someone prepared or in space in place to come in and do what you need them to do. So, but yeah, I think ultimately Lenny Grigg is basically kicking to get some run, man. Get some run in this league. Get some kicks under his belt. I think they're definitely gonna use him. And I think Younghoe is a guy that he's proved that he's healthy, because I think that was the biggest question coming in. Are you healthy? And if he's healthy, the expectation is you're gonna continue to be the player that you've been. So yeah, as far as competition, man, I don't think it's a competition at this point, because shoot, Koo has gone practice without missing kicks at all. So yeah, it seems like he's back to his old self pre-injury, and yeah, and I think that the Falcons are perfectly fine with that, because like they can still keep Lenny Grigg, keep running him out there for all 3 games. He's gonna get as many kicks as he possibly wants, and then they can stash him on use their international roster spot.
Yeah, I think that's a great breakdown there, Jarvis. I'm very curious to see what Lenny Grigg does under the lights, right? He's been money in practice. He's missed a couple of kicks in practice, but for the most part, nothing too egregious. The workouts that he had in the offseason at the combine and at the South Florida Pro Day and whatnot. And it's like, yeah, like he did a great job kicking where there's no pressure. There's no, it's like being in an empty gym shooting free throws. It's like, yeah, you can make a bunch of free throws, but then in the game, fourth quarter, in an actual basketball game, the pressure's on you.
On the road, yeah,
you got some fatigue in you and whatnot. So those are, to me, going to be a great opportunity for Lenny Grigg, I think, to show what he has, just because that was one of the things I had where you talked about it, where it's like, was this a real competition going into it, at least based off of Lenny Grigg's body of work in the actual games that he played in Europe? Like, the numbers didn't look that impressive, and it was like, is this a guy that is ready to kick in the NFL in the pressure situations? And so I think Friday night he has a chance to potentially answer that if he goes out there and goes 3 for 3 or whatever needs to happen or and whatnot in this game. So I think this is a good opportunity for Lenny Grigg to show that, yeah, maybe he wasn't necessarily, the numbers weren't great in Europe, but now that he's in the States, he's ready to go in the event, as I think you broke it down, Jarvis, with him being sort of a good stash as an international player that will be much harder for NFL teams to poach, like if he was just a traditional practice squad guy, and because of the potential of Younghoe dealing with injuries, which he's dealt with the last couple of years, having that sort of emergency option that is ready to go, I think that's a golden opportunity for Lenny Grigg to at least prove that on Friday, even if it's not necessarily going to be in a position where he can take the job from Younghoe at this point.
And I'm excited to see him, because like you hear of the kicking the 50 plus yarders, and the funny thing is that he was money with those in practice, but like the ones from shorter distance, he was kind of having a little struggles with. And I was just like, oh, that's interesting. So like I said, I think he's gonna get some good run, and that's gonna be the thing I'm gonna look for. Like, okay, we know you can hit the bombs, because that's what everybody gets fascinated with, including myself.
Yeah.
But can you get the gimmies, like the 35 yarder or the 42 yarder, like, which we know that Koo is gonna nail those bad boys, and because that's just who we know him to be. Crazy people who are up here trying to call him for him to be cut and stuff like that. I don't understand them folks. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand myself sometimes, because that's who I'm talking about. So, but seriously, though, man, I think Lenny is a guy that I love seeing guys get opportunities because I never forget, man, watching a preseason some time ago. It was back when Victor Cruz was playing. And he just was tearing up preseason.
Yeah,
I'm just like,
I
oh my
remember him.
gosh, who is this cat? Like, where did he come from? You know, he went to UMass in college. He didn't go to UMass. So, you know, when you think about it from that standpoint, I was like, man, like the opportunities guys have, you know, to be able to go out there and earn a job. And man, dude went on to have a long career. I know that doesn't happen that often, but when you see it, it is, man, you just hope it happens again. And
Yeah.
you know, Lenny Grigg can do that.
Yeah. Victor Cruz is a good pull, Jarvis. I do remember that
gosh,
first
bro.
preseason he had. It was
Killing, dude.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. As you're like, who? Yeah, you're right. It's like, who is this guy? And then like what? Maybe like 2 years later, he's in the Super Bowl or whatever. You know, killing dudes. So like, okay, yeah,
Signed a big boy contract. You know what I'm saying? Like doing the salsa dance, getting all that stuff, man. I love that, man. That is great. It's great.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if anybody's doing some salsa dancing on Friday night for the Falcons or the Lions. Who knows at this point in time? For those of you curious, I don't think we'll see the Lions starters. As far as I know, they haven't played their starters in the preseason for like 2 years. So I think they're firmly in the Raheem camp of this is all about backups. We ain't playing anybody important in this game. So backups versus backups. Who's going to win the battle of the backups? That's going to be what we're going to be breaking down on Friday night after the game. Again, check us out on the Falcons Squad Show, Locked On Sports Atlanta, and of course coming at you as well on your Locked On Falcons feeds. And we'll also give you that rapid reaction, an hour and a half of premium Friday night action. Don't miss it, guys. Make sure you check us out on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And of course, in the meantime, if you're, looking ahead to this weekend's action, looking for some football futures when it comes to some betting locks, or maybe you're, focused on what's going on in Major League Baseball, Locked On Bets has you covered. Kevin Rogers, Lee Sterling will give you all of that on Locked On Bets podcast. It is all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.